Hey, hello YouTube. So I'm trying a new video camera type setup here, and it's really weird because if I look at where I think the mic or the camera lens is, it probably looks like I'm looking at you, but the screen is just to the right of that. So I really want to look right there, which makes it look like I don't know where I'm looking at. So it's kind of weird for me to look over here. Anyways, so that's my forgive me for this video looking kind of odd, and I don't like to shoot myself. Most of my videos I'm doing something, not filming myself, so it's kind of odd filming myself. Anyways, I want to do a video on my 2016 predictions there. I figured I'd pick 10 predictions there, and just talk about them a little bit, and maybe if something come true, you'll be like, hey, I remember a guy talking about that. So, my first prediction I want to talk about is autonomous cars. I don't. They're already out there. I remember reading about Department of Transportation approaching, like I don't know, Google or some other manufacturers, and saying, "Hey, what's the state of autonomous cars? You know, when do you think we'll see this technology?" And the techs kind of like sheepishly grinned and said, we haven't told you this, but been driving around for about 3 years now." And the government was just shocked. What do you mean you've been driving around for 3 years? And he goes, yeah, well, there's an old adage that says it's easier to say I'm sorry than it is to ask permission to do something. And especially with the government, if you ask permission, can I do this? They're always going to say, they're going to panic and say no, especially if it's something that's not normal, outside the fitting. And anybody's doing something new is going to be something new. And so people who are working on new technologies don't want to go to the government and say, can I have permission to do this? Because they're always just going to say no. So it's easier just to go ahead and do it in a safe manner where you don't attract attention to yourself. And then, and like in the case of the autonomous vehicles, then the government's shocked and just can't believe that this has been happening all along. And they're like, yeah, well, we just didn't tell you about it. And the way they were kind of doing it is that they do it just the way the government kind of wants them to implement it. And they're doing it, the implementation for the government's not more so much about safety, although they say that. It's more, they're worried about unions and job protections, and from their perspective, that seems important. They're not business, government's not business people, so they tend to worry more about popular stances on things than really studying hard subjects matters. Anyways, rambling a little bit there. So I don't think autonomous cars, they could come out, but I don't think they're going to come out because of the fear factor of the public and the government. What you're going to see is more of driver assist technology coming out. There really is no, in this day and age, there's no excuse for a rear end collision in a city setting to where the traffic's moving really slow. And that's probably, if I were to guess, I'd say that's most likely one of the major vehicle accidents is, at least in the United States, is you're going in slow traffic or something changes unexpectedly in front of you and you're not quite paying attention. Maybe you're reaching down and change the radio dial, or for whatever reason, it just takes a second for that car in front of you to hit his brake. A squirrel runs out in front of him, he hits his brakes, and boom, you hit him. And they're like, well, you were following too close, so instantly it's your problem. Realistically, nobody stays. You're supposed to stay one car length back for every 10 miles an hour you're going. So if you're going through a 20 mile an hour city street section, you're supposed to be 2 car lengths back. Well, if you really think about it on a practical view, if you have 10 cars behind each other, that starts taking up a lot of vehicle real estate. That's just not going to happen in a real world. Works good on tests and papers and stuff, but not in the real world. Anyways, there's no excuse for those type with today's technology. You could put sensors in there that could either audibly warn you or just kind of like apply the brakes. You could put a wall up, have a car driving really at 60, 70 miles an hour right at a solid wall, and the technology is there that car would come as close as you programmed it to come and not hit that wall, even though you had your foot completely on the gas pedal, so to speak. So anyways, I think you're going to see stuff like that, like changing lanes and there's a car in your blind spot that you can't see. There's no reason. I mean, proximity sensors have been around since the 60s and stuff. You could, when you're going to make a turn and there's something there an audible sound could go in, or the car could not let you merge into that other car. That's another big accident. A lot of accidents happen like that, where people forget to look over the shoulder and they turn into a blind spot. Also, mirror technology. It's kind of weird we're still using mirrors. You could have cameras that would be at the blind spot looking for you, and it would be projected where your mirror normally sits. So I think you're going to see lots of driver assist technologies gradually come in to the point where you're almost not doing anything, and then at that point, then the public and government will be like, well, let's take it the extra step. And it'll probably take little small increments, like if you're on the freeway and you're going and there's no car there, you hit, quote, cruise control, and instead of being cruise control, it would be, because you're almost doing that in cruise control anyways, people are hardly paying attention, it'll be like autonomous control. So you're on the freeway, you got to drive 50 miles, there's hardly any traffic out there, everybody's doing 80 miles in a 65 zone. Why not just let the car take over and you can start texting or whatever? You'll probably be doing audible text instead of texting on a phone, but that's going to happen, and people are not even going to be knowing that other people aren't even driving. Their cars are driving for those stretches, and it'll probably increment in that way. You're already seeing cars that self-park and things like that, and that's kind of a higher-end option, but that technology is going to come down to the economy line. Anyway, so that's my number one prediction. Boy, this is a lot longer than I thought it would. I'm going to pause here. Maybe I'll pause in between each predictions. I didn't realize how long I was going to ramble for. So that's my number one autonomous car prediction. They could do it, but it's not going to happen. You're going to see driver-assisted cars instead, driver-assistant technology from the autonomous car technology. That's what's going to happen. Anyway, so I'm going to just pause it here, and then we'll go on with number two.